Next we have Bjarte Ystebø. He's a fellow minister from Norway, and Mark was extremely active in Norway, so
thank you. On June 19th in 2016, I got a call, and it was my friend Mark. He said, "I hate to bother you, but I think I'm having a heart attack." We had just done a televised conference, as we had done many in Norway, and this was the first dramatic health event that led to the situation that brings us together today. Too soon, in my estimation. He didn't want anyone to worry, so he didn't want to burden anyone. Even looking over the texts we exchanged over the last days of his life, he downplayed the seriousness of his illness and the situation he was in. So my thoughts go back to that day in 2016 when he said, "I hate to bother you, but I think I'm having a heart attack." As perhaps most of you know, Norway was a big part of Mark's life, and I'll come back to that in a minute. In 2007, we bought a place here in Florida, and we looked for a church. We Googled it. The closest one we could find was Grace Fellowship of Four Corners. I reached out to the pastor, and he was very welcoming and interested in me. You know how some pastors will be interested only if you will come and be a part of their congregation and sit in the pews? He was interested in me. And I found him to be an amazing preacher, and I came back to that church as often as I could. We went out to eat, and we built a friendship. I invited him to Norway a few times, and he finally decided to come. And he described so many times the love he felt for Norway, and how he met that. And it was one evening when he knelt down to pray about whether he should come or not. And at that moment, something happened to him that changed him and gave him a love for a nation that he didn't even know where it was. He wasn't embarrassed to say he had to look on the globe to find out where it was. Mark was an instant hit in Norway. He spoke in large churches and quite often on television. And he had this idea, what if we could pray for everybody in Norway by name? How Americans think everything is big in America and everything is small everywhere else. And so he told me about this vision that he had, and he asked me if we could do it. And I worked on it a little bit, and we figured out I figured out a way we could do it. So we went on television, and within a few days, 5,000 people had signed up to pray for everybody in Norway by name. So there was about 5 million people. So we all had 1,000 names each that we prayed for the month of October every year since 2014. There were so many people who testified how that had changed their life as they started to pray. People would say, I wasn't a prayer warrior before, but as soon as I sat down with this list and I was disciplined about doing it, it changed my life. And only God knows what those prayers will mean in the lives of the people we prayed for. Mark had many friends in Norway, not only because of ministry, but because of who he was. He had a welcoming smile. He was a perfect gentleman. He was always interested in hearing somebody's story. He prayed with people, and he always had time for everyone. Mark had a way of seeing and being excited about the little things in someone's life. In fact, I learned a lot about people I thought I knew after hearing Mark tell their story, the way he had heard it. He saw the extraordinary when the rest of us only saw the ordinary. I think this part of him corresponds with another side of his personality. Mark was a dreamer. He was always looking forward to something with an almost childlike expectation. He always had a project. He always had something that he was certain would be amazing. It was fair to say not always did it materialize. In fact, rather seldom, I think. He didn't reflect much on the things that didn't come to be what he had hoped for. He just moved on to the next tree. Mark was always optimistic, much to our benefit. Who wants to be around pessimistic people anyways? The glass was never half empty with him. It was always half full. And to be honest, even when there was no water in the glass, and there hadn't been for quite a while, I always enjoyed sharing my own plans and dreams with him because I could always count on his unreserved enthusiasm. It was contagious. I'm going to miss that. To me, Mark was a true friend. According to the TV show Seinfeld, a true guy friend is someone who you can ask to help you move, and I'll also take you to the airport. And I'm proud to say Mark did both for me. We have spent countless hours around or in travel or around the table at our house where he was a frequent guest. He was a part of our family. Whenever I came to the States, we would have breakfast at the downtown diner in celebration. We would sit a while. The last time we had breakfast was in March of this year. We sat and had breakfast for 4 hours. I'm going to miss that too. If I or anyone in my family needed help here in America, we could always count on Mark. He didn't say no. He looked after our place. He let my 18-year-old son, who just had his Norwegian driver's license, borrow his fancy new car for a week. He would offer advice on anything I asked. Yesterday, I found myself wondering what to wear to a memorial service in Florida. My first instinct was to call Mark. I don't know who to call now. I think if I would have asked Mark what he wanted me to say today, I think he would have wanted me to say something to Megan, Daniel, and Matt. He talked about you a lot, and as you know, loved you very much. We had very open conversations about fatherhood, and he was very humble when he talked about himself as a father. Back in 2020, my father had a stroke, and we didn't know if he would make it. For a few hours, I was faced with the reality of being fatherless. It was the heaviest day of my life. 2.5 years later, he passed away. I can tell you from my own experience that you're never old enough to feel okay about losing your dad. It's like a wall falling out of your life, and you have to process all of the things that go with it. Jesus knows where you're at. He experienced being fatherless. When he hung on the cross, he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? He has compassion because he went through all the pain of being human like you and I. Also this. And he's made it so that we don't have to be fatherless. The Bible says God is the father to the fatherless. And he's a perfect and good father. And it's real. He will comfort you today and in the days ahead, and he will be all you need. All you ever need. After Mark had visited Norway a couple times, he asked me about a hymn he kept hearing everywhere. It had touched his spirit, and he wanted to know more about this hymn. So I told him that this hymn is like a national anthem for the church in Norway. And you will hear it in the senior service, and you will hear it in the youth service. It's our most beloved Christian hymn, and it became his most beloved Norwegian hymn. In a minute, we'll come back up here, my wife Linda and my daughters Miriam and Elizabeth, and we're going to sing this song. And the chorus goes, I love the name Jesus. It has set my soul on fire. It is by that name that I found salvation. No other name can save. The rest of the words won't make any sense to you. But if Mark is listening, pardon my theology, I think he will appreciate it. I will close with this. It's been an honor to call Mark my friend. I will miss him. Our family will miss him. He was known and loved by thousands in Norway. And I'm glad this is not a final goodbye. This is farewell for now. And we will see my friend again in heaven when my time comes. I want to bless your family. I want to bless Mark's memory. And I want to thank you for the honor and privilege of being here and speaking on this day. Thank you.
At this time, the Ystebø family will be singing a hymn that Mark grew very fond of in his ministry time in Norway.
Navnet Jesus blekner aldri, tærer seg av tidens tann. Navnet Jesus, det evig, ingen det utslette kan. Det har bud til unge gamle, skyter stadig friske skudd. Det har evne til å samle alle sjeler inntil Gud. Navnet Jesus må jeg elske, det har satt min sjel i brann. Ved det navnet fant jeg frelse, intet annet frelse kan. Jesu navn hvor skjønt det klinger, la det runge over jord. Intet annet verden bringer, håp og trøst som dette ord. For det navn må hatet vike, for det navn må ondskap fly. Ved det navn skal rettferdsrike skyte friske skudd på ny. Navnet Jesus må jeg elske, det har satt min sjel i brann. Ved det navnet fant jeg frelse, intet annet frelse kan. Midt i nattens mørke blinker, som et fyrlys Jesu navn. Over hjelpløs seier vinker, inntil frelsens trygge havn. Og når solen mer ei skinner, Jesu navnet lyser den. Da den frelse skare synge, høyt dets pris i himmelen. Navnet Jesus må jeg elske, det har satt min sjel i brann. Ved det navnet fant jeg frelse, intet annet frelse kan. Navnet Jesus må jeg elske, det har satt min sjel